I often worked late and came home very late at night. But every time I walked into the house, something felt off. The place looked like someone else had been there besides my wife. Things were scattered, the bed wasn't made. The kitchen was messy, like more than one person had eaten there. My name is Max Jordan, and I'm 39 years old. I work as an IT manager for a mid-sized tech company in suburban Denver. I've always prided myself on being observant. It comes with the territory when you're debugging code all day. You learn to spot the little things that don't belong, the patterns that seem wrong. And lately, everything about my home felt wrong. I'd walk through the front door at 11 or midnight, exhausted from another 12-hour day, and the house would have this strange energy. Not the peaceful quiet you'd expect from a sleeping household, but something else. Something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The living room cushions would be arranged differently than I remembered. There'd be 2 wine glasses in the sink instead of 1. The TV would be warm, like it had been on recently, but Erica claimed she'd gone to bed early. Erica Jordan, my wife of 8 years, worked in human resources for a pharmaceutical company. She was 36, blonde, and had the kind of sharp intelligence that could cut through corporate bullshit like a laser. When we first met, I was attracted to her confidence and her ability to command a room. Now, that same confidence felt like a wall between us. I started asking her carefully if anyone had been coming over, if maybe a friend stopped by, or someone visited while I was at work. She always denied it. She acted confused and told me I was imagining things. "Max, you're working too hard," she'd say, running her fingers through her hair in that way that used to make my heart skip. "You're seeing things that aren't there. Maybe you should talk to someone about the stress." I let it slide. I told myself I was tired and overthinking. I cleaned up, tried not to argue, and moved on. But the signs kept piling up like evidence in a case file. There was the morning I found a coffee mug in the dishwasher that neither of us owned, a heavy ceramic thing with a motorcycle logo. When I asked Erica about it, she shrugged and said it must have been left by the repair guy who'd fixed our garbage disposal the week before. Except we'd never had our garbage disposal repaired. Then there were the phone calls. Late-night whispered conversations that stopped the moment I walked into the room. Text messages that made her smile in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. When I'd glance over, she'd quickly flip her phone face down and change the subject. "Work stuff," she'd say. "You know how crazy things get in HR. I knew about crazy work stuff. I lived it every day. But work stuff didn't usually make you blush and bite your lip like you were sharing secrets with a lover." The breaking point came on a Thursday night in October. I'd been working on a particularly frustrating server migration, and I was running on about 3 hours of sleep and too much coffee. When I finally got home at midnight, I found something that made my blood freeze. There was a leather jacket draped over the back of our dining room chair, a man's leather jacket, worn and weathered, with the smell of cigarettes and motor oil still clinging to it. It wasn't mine. I stood there for a full minute, staring at that jacket like it was a bomb that might go off. My mind raced through possible explanations. Maybe Erica had bought it for me as a surprise. Maybe it belonged to her brother, though he lived 3 states away and hadn't visited in over a year. Maybe, "Oh, you're home early tonight." I spun around to find Erica standing in the doorway to the kitchen, wearing a silk robe I'd never seen before. Her hair was tousled, and there was something in her expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt? Fear? Or just annoyance at being caught off guard? "Whose jacket is this?" I asked, keeping my voice level. She glanced at it like she was seeing it for the first time. "Oh, that. It's Adam's. He stopped by earlier to return some old photos from college. You remember Adam, right? We dated before I met you." I remembered Adam Price. 6'2", built like he spent his days hauling steel beams instead of pushing papers. The kind of guy who rode a Ducati and never met a rule he didn't want to break. Erica had mentioned him occasionally over the years, usually with a fond smile that made me feel like I was missing some private joke. He left his jacket? I asked. He was in a hurry. Said he'd pick it up later. At midnight? No, Max. He came by around 7. I just forgot to put it away. The explanation was reasonable, logical even, but something about the way she delivered it, too smooth, too practiced, made my programmer's brain start looking for bugs in the code. I walked over to the jacket and picked it up. It was still warm. Erica, I said slowly, if Adam left this at 7, why is it still warm? For just a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Then she laughed, a sound that was just a little too bright, a little too forced. Warm? Max, you're being paranoid. It was hanging near the heating vent. Of course it's warm. I looked at the chair. It was nowhere near a heating vent, but I didn't say anything. I hung the jacket back where I'd found it and followed Erica upstairs to bed. She fell asleep quickly, or at least pretended to, while I lay awake staring at the ceiling and trying to make sense of the pieces that didn't fit. The next morning, the jacket was gone. Over the following weeks, I started paying closer attention. I began keeping a mental inventory of our belongings, noting when things appeared or disappeared. I started coming home at different times, varying my routine to see if I could catch whatever was happening when I wasn't supposed to be there. What I found was a pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork, there would be signs. The house would smell faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. There'd be dirty dishes for 2 people instead of 1. The shower would be damp when Erica claimed she'd taken her shower hours earlier. I installed a security app on my phone that let me check our home cameras remotely. We'd had them installed the previous year after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood, but I'd never thought to use them to spy on my own wife. The cameras showed me exactly what I'd expected and dreaded to see. On Tuesday, October 24th, at 3:47 p.m., Adam Price's black Ducati pulled into our driveway. At 3:52 p.m., he walked through our front door like he owned the place. At 4:15 p.m., both he and Erica disappeared from view of the cameras, heading upstairs toward our bedroom. They didn't reappear until 6:30 p.m. I sat in my office cubicle, watching the timestamp tick by on my phone screen, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. 2 hours and 15 minutes. In our bedroom. In our bed. When I got home that night, Erica greeted me with a kiss on the cheek and asked about my day like nothing had happened. She'd made dinner, my favorite pasta dish, and opened a bottle of wine. She was trying so hard to seem normal that her performance felt like a neon sign flashing guilty in the darkness. "How was your day?" I asked, taking a sip of wine and watching her face carefully. "Oh, you know, same old boring stuff. Conference calls and paperwork. I barely left the house except to grab groceries." Lie number 1. "Did anyone stop by?" "Stop by? No. Why would anyone stop by?" Lie number 2. "Just wondering. I thought I saw Adam's bike in the neighborhood earlier." Her hand froze halfway to her wine glass. For just a moment, her mask slipped, and I saw the panic underneath. "Adam? No, I haven't seen Adam in... God, it must be months now. Why would he be in our neighborhood?" Lie number 3. I nodded and smiled and played along with her charade, but inside, something fundamental had shifted. The man who'd walked into this house believing in his marriage was gone. In his place was someone colder, more calculating, someone who was done being played for a fool. That night, after Erica fell asleep, I went downstairs and started planning. If my wife wanted to play games, I'd show her how good I was at winning them. 3 weeks later, I decided it was time to come home early and see exactly what my wife and her ex-boyfriend thought they were getting away with. I'd been tracking their pattern for weeks now. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Adam's bike would appear in our driveway between 3:30 and 4 p.m. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'd get a text from Erica around 4:15 p.m. saying she was running errands, or meeting a friend for coffee, or stuck in a boring work meeting. It was Thursday, November 16th, and I'd told my boss I was feeling sick and needed to leave early. At 3:45 p.m., I was sitting in my car 3 blocks from my own house, watching Adam's Ducati roar past me toward my driveway. My phone buzzed with a text from Erica. Stuck in the longest HR meeting ever. Might be late getting home. Love you. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I drove to the flower shop on Maple Street and bought a dozen red roses. Then I stopped at the chocolate shop next door and picked up a box of those expensive Belgian truffles Erica pretended to love but never actually ate. If I was going to catch my wife cheating, I was going to do it with style. At 5:30 p.m., I pulled into my own driveway behind Adam's bike. The Ducati was still warm, ticking as the engine cooled. I could see Adam's helmet hanging from the handlebars and his leather gloves stuffed into the seat compartment. I walked up to my own front door, roses in one hand, chocolates in the other, and used my key like I belonged there, which, legally speaking, I did. The house was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that meant people were trying very hard not to make noise. I could hear the floorboards creaking upstairs and what sounded like muffled conversation coming from the direction of our bedroom. I set the flowers and chocolates on the kitchen counter and walked slowly toward the stairs. Each step felt like walking toward the edge of a cliff, knowing I was about to jump off and not sure if there was anything to catch me on the way down. The bedroom door was closed, but not locked. I could hear voices now, Erica's laugh, followed by a deeper male voice that definitely wasn't mine. There was something intimate about the sound, something that made my stomach twist into knots. I stood outside that door for maybe 30 seconds, listening to my wife giggle with another man in our bed, and felt something inside me break clean in half. Not my heart. That had been breaking slowly for weeks. Something deeper, something that had to do with trust and respect and the basic assumption that the person you married wouldn't humiliate you in your own home. I opened the door. They were under the covers, but there was no mistaking what I'd walked in on. Erica's blonde hair was spread across my pillow, and Adam's muscular arm was draped over her bare shoulder. They were so caught up in each other that they didn't even notice me at first. "Well," I said, loud enough to get their attention. "This is interesting." Erica's head snapped up so fast, I thought she might give herself whiplash. Her face went through about 6 different expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, fear, guilt, and finally, incredibly, annoyance. "Max, what are you doing home?" "I live here," I said. "Remember? This is my house, that's my bed, and unless I'm very much mistaken, that's my wife." Adam sat up slowly, and I had to give him credit. He didn't look embarrassed or ashamed. He looked like a man who'd been interrupted while doing something he had every right to do. The arrogance was almost impressive. "Hey, Max," he said, like we'd run into each other at the grocery store. "How's it going?" "Oh, it's going great, Adam. Just fantastic. Thanks for asking." Erica scrambled to pull the sheet up to her chin, which was almost funny since I'd seen everything she had to offer approximately 8,000 times over the course of our marriage. "Max, this isn't what it looks like," she started, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Really? Because it looks like my wife is in bed with her ex-boyfriend while I'm at work paying the mortgage on the house they're screwing around in. Please, enlighten me. What is it, actually?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. I could practically see the wheels turning as she tried to come up with an explanation that would make this seem reasonable. "He had nowhere to sleep," she finally said. "Don't be jealous. It's not a big deal." I stared at her. "He had nowhere to sleep?" "Yes." "So you decided to let him sleep in our bed. With you. Naked." "Max, you're making this weird. He just needed a place to crash for a few hours, and you're being all jealous and possessive about it." Adam nodded like this made perfect sense. "Yeah, man. It's not like we were doing anything serious, just hanging out." "Hanging out," I repeated. "Naked, in my bed, with my wife." "You're being really uptight about this," Erica said. It's 2024, Max. People can be friends without it meaning something dirty. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. This woman who was trying to gaslight me into believing that what I was seeing with my own eyes wasn't real, who was treating me like I was the crazy one for being upset about finding her in bed with another man. And that's when something clicked into place. I smiled. You know what, Erica? You're absolutely right. I am being uptight about this. If Adam needed a place to sleep, and you were just being a good friend by letting him crash here, then I completely understand. She blinked, clearly not expecting me to agree with her. I do, I continued. In fact, I think it's wonderful that you're so generous with your hospitality. So generous that you won't mind if I extend the same courtesy to Adam's wife. Adam's face changed. What? Well, if you're here using our bed, then Sophie must be all alone at your place. And if my wife is allowed to help out friends who need somewhere to sleep, then I'm sure she won't mind if I go help Sophie with the same problem. Max, that's not, Erica started. Not what? Not the same thing? Because it sounds exactly the same to me. Adam needed a place to sleep, so you let him sleep here. Sophie probably needs some company while her husband is out, so I'll go keep her company. Fair's fair, right? I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. Let me just call Sophie and let her know I'm coming over. I'm sure she'll be very interested to hear about how helpful you've been to her husband. Don't you dare, Adam said, sitting up straighter. Dare what? Be a good friend? Offer help to someone who needs it? I thought that's what we were all doing here. Erica was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Max, you can't be serious. Oh, I'm dead serious. In fact, I'm going to be just as serious about this as you've been. Every Tuesday and Thursday, just like clockwork. Adam went pale. How did you know about your little schedule? I'm not stupid, Adam. I just played stupid because I wanted to see how far you'd both go. Turns out, pretty damn far. I found Sophie's number in my phone. I'd gotten it from Adam's Facebook page weeks ago just in case I needed it, and held up the phone so they could see the screen. Last chance to tell me the truth about what's really been going on here, I said, because once I make this call, there's no going back. Erica and Adam looked at each other, and I could see them having an entire conversation without words. Finally, Erica turned back to me. Max, please, we can work this out. We can talk about this like adults. Talk about what? I thought this wasn't a big deal. I thought you were just being a good friend. You know it's more than that, she whispered. Do I? Because 5 minutes ago, you were telling me I was crazy and jealous and making something innocent into something dirty. Now you want to admit there's more to it? She didn't answer. I hit the call button. Sophie Price answered on the second ring. Hello? Hi, Sophie. This is Max Jordan, Adam's friend. I was wondering if you had a few minutes to talk. Max? Sure, I guess. Is everything okay? That depends on your definition of okay. I'm standing in my bedroom right now, looking at your husband in bed with my wife. They tell me he just needed a place to sleep. I was thinking maybe you needed some company while he's out. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, are you fucking serious right now? Dead serious. Want me to put him on the phone so he can explain how innocent this all is? Put that cheating bastard on right now. I held the phone out toward Adam. Your wife wants to talk to you. He shook his head and scooted backward on the bed like the phone might bite him. He seems to be busy right now, I told Sophie. But don't worry. I'm sure we can figure out a way to make this fair for everyone. Max, Sophie said, and her voice had gone from shocked to dangerous. I'm coming over there right now. Actually, I have a better idea. Why don't I come to you? I think we have a lot to talk about. I ended the call and looked at my wife and her boyfriend, both of whom were staring at me like I'd just pulled the pin on a grenade. Congratulations, I said. You wanted to play games. Now we're all playing. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Adam? You might want to get dressed. Sophie sounded pretty upset. and I have a feeling she's going to want to have a conversation with you real soon. As I walked downstairs, I could hear them scrambling around the bedroom, whispering urgently to each other. By the time I reached the front door, Adam was thundering down the stairs, pulling on his clothes. "Max, wait," he called. "We need to talk about this." I turned around and smiled at him. "Talk about what? I thought this wasn't a big deal." "Come on, man. You know Sophie. She's going to lose her shit over this." "Probably. But that's not my problem anymore, that's yours." I walked out of my own house and got in my car, leaving my wife and her boyfriend to figure out what to do next. As I drove toward Sophie's house across town, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt like myself again. Sophie Price lived in a small ranch house on the south side of town, the kind of place that was built in the 1970s and hadn't been updated much since. When I pulled into her driveway 20 minutes later, I could see her waiting for me on the front porch, smoking a cigarette and looking like she was ready to murder someone with her bare hands. Sophie was not what you'd call conventionally beautiful, but she had the kind of presence that made you pay attention. She was compact and muscular, with short dark hair and the kind of direct stare that suggested she didn't have much patience for bullshit. She worked as a nurse at Denver General, which meant she'd seen enough human stupidity to last several lifetimes. "You must be Max," she said as I walked up the porch steps, "and you must be the other half of this mess." She took a long drag of her cigarette and studied me like I was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "So, my husband is screwing your wife." "Apparently so." "In your bed." "In my bed. And they told you he just needed a place to sleep. That's the story they're sticking with." She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Jesus Christ. Adam always was a terrible liar. I can't believe your wife thought you'd buy that." "My wife thinks I'm an idiot. Are you?" I considered the question. I was. I'm not anymore. Sophie nodded and stubbed out her cigarette. "Good. Come inside. I've got whiskey, and I think we're both going to need it." Her living room was small but comfortable, with mismatched furniture that looked like it had been collected over years rather than bought all at once. There were medical textbooks stacked on the coffee table and a pair of scrubs draped over the back of a chair. She poured 2 generous glasses of bourbon and handed me one. "So how long has this been going on?" "I've been tracking it for about 3 weeks, but I think it's been longer. Maybe months." "Months." She took a sip of bourbon and shook her head. I knew something was up. Adam's been acting weird lately. Coming home late, taking phone calls in the other room, doing laundry more often than usual. Doing laundry? Adam never does laundry, ever. But suddenly he's washing his own clothes twice a week. I should have known he was trying to hide the smell of another woman's perfume. We sat in silence for a moment. 2 people who'd been made fools of by the people they'd trusted most. "So, what do we do now?" Sophie asked. "I don't know. I've never been in this situation before." "Well, I have." I looked at her. "This has happened before?" "Not exactly. But Adam's been cheating on me for years. Usually it's just one-night stands or brief flings. I always figured as long as he came home to me I could live with it." She took another sip of bourbon. "But this is different. This is ongoing. This is him having a relationship with someone else." "Why did you stay with him?" She was quiet for a long time. "Because I loved him. Because I thought he'd eventually grow up and stop acting like a teenager. Because I was stupid." She looked at me. "Why did you stay with Erica?" "Because I didn't know. She's good at lying. Better than Adam, apparently." My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and showed Sophie the screen. It was from Erica. "Max, please come home. We need to talk about this. I can explain everything." Sophie snorted. "Let me guess. She's going to tell you it didn't mean anything, that she loves you and wants to work things out, that it was just a mistake and it'll never happen again. How did you know?" Because that's what they always say. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I stared at the text message, thinking about my wife sitting in our bedroom, probably crying and trying to figure out how to manipulate me into forgiving her. Thinking about Adam, probably already planning his next move, his next lie. I'm going to make them pay for it, I said. Sophie raised her glass. Now you're talking. What did you have in mind? I don't know yet, but I'm good at solving problems, and right now, they're my biggest problem. Well, you're not going to solve it alone. I've got 8 years of marriage to Adam and a lot of stored-up anger. Plus, I know things about him that could make his life very complicated. What kind of things? She smiled, and for the first time since I'd met her, it was a genuinely happy expression. The kind of things that could ruin him socially, professionally, and financially. The kind of things that could make him wish he'd never heard your wife's name. Over the next 2 hours, Sophie and I shared information like intelligence officers planning a military operation. She told me about Adam's gambling debts, his tendency to borrow money from friends and never pay it back, his habit of calling in sick to work so he could ride his motorcycle to the mountains. She told me about his ex-girlfriends, his family drama, and his deep-seated fear of being seen as a failure. I told her about Erica's obsession with her professional reputation, her need to be seen as perfect by her friends and colleagues, her horror of being the subject of gossip or scandal. I told her about our joint bank accounts, our shared credit cards, and the fact that Erica had been using our money to buy gifts for Adam, expensive gifts that I'd assumed were for her friends or family. She bought him a leather jacket last month, I said, charged it to our Visa, $800. The one he's always wearing? I wondered where he got that. I knew we couldn't afford it. She's been buying him dinner, too. I've seen the charges. Expensive restaurants I've never been to. Sophie's expression darkened. So she's been using your money to date my husband. Looks like it. That's it. That's how we get them both. She went to a desk in the corner of the room and pulled out a laptop. I'm going to show you something, but you have to promise me you won't judge me for having it. What is it? I've been keeping track of Adam's activities for the past 6 months. I installed a GPS tracker on his bike, and I've been monitoring his text messages through our shared phone plan. I know everywhere he's been, and everyone he's been talking to. She opened the laptop and showed me a detailed spreadsheet with dates, times, locations, and notes. It was like a detective's case file, complete with screenshots of text messages and photos of Adam's bike, parked in various locations. Sophie, this is incredible. You've documented everything. I'm a nurse. I'm trained to keep detailed records. And I had a feeling I was going to need evidence eventually. I studied the spreadsheet, cross-referencing the dates with my own observations. The pattern was clear. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 2 months, Adam had been at my house from approximately 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. But there were other dates too, other times when he'd been places he shouldn't have been. Look at this, Sophie said, pointing to an entry from 3 weeks ago. Saturday, October 28th. Adam told me he was going to his cousin's house to help with some construction work. But according to the GPS, he was at the Marriott downtown for 4 hours. I pulled out my phone and checked my calendar. October 28th was the Saturday Erica had said she was going to a baby shower for one of her co-workers. She'd left the house at noon and hadn't come back until evening. They were at a hotel together, I said, for 4 hours. Using our money to pay for it, probably. Sophie closed the laptop and poured herself another bourbon. So what's the plan? I thought about it. Erica and Adam had been playing games with us for months, treating us like we were too stupid to figure out what was happening. They'd been lying to our faces, using our money, and humiliating us in our own homes. It was time to turn the tables. We're going to give them exactly what they deserve, I said. We're going to make them famous. Famous? Erica's worst nightmare is being the subject of gossip. She spent years building this perfect image of herself as the ideal wife and professional. Adam's worst nightmare is being seen as a loser who can't keep his own life together. So we destroy their reputations. We don't destroy anything. We just make sure everyone knows who they really are. Sophie smiled. I like the way you think, Max. When do we start? Right now. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. I'm going to need you to send me copies of all that evidence you've collected, and then we're going to make some phone calls. Who are we calling? Everyone. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day in what Sophie and I had started calling War Room, her dining room table, covered with printouts, laptops, and a detailed plan of attack. Sophie had taken a personal day from the hospital, claiming she needed to deal with a family emergency, which technically wasn't a lie. Okay, she said, spreading out a neighborhood map. I've marked every house where people know either Adam or Erica. The Hendersons next door to you are friends with Erica, right? Close friends. They have dinner together once a month. And the Patels across the street? Erica babysits their kids sometimes. Sophie made notes on the map. Perfect. What about Adam's work friends? I don't know them personally, but I know where he works. Mountain View Construction, downtown. I know that place. They do a lot of work at the hospital. Blue-collar guys, very tight-knit crew. The kind of guys who would give Adam hell if they knew he was cheating on his wife. I pulled up Adam's Facebook page on my laptop. He's got about 200 friends on here. Most of them are local. And look at this. He's been posting photos of himself on his bike, but some of them are clearly taken at places he shouldn't have been. Sophie leaned over to look at the screen. That's the parking lot of the Marriott. I recognize it from when I followed him there. He posted this on October 28th with the caption, "Beautiful day for a ride." But he told you he was helping his cousin with construction work. And he told his Facebook friends he was just out for a ride. So he lied to everyone. We spent the morning crafting our strategy. It had to be subtle. We couldn't just blast out accusations without proof, because that would make us look crazy and vindictive. But we could share information in ways that would make people start asking questions. Our first target was Erica's workplace. I knew from 8 years of marriage that Erica's professional reputation was everything to her. She'd worked her way up from an entry-level HR position to a senior management role, and she was proud of being seen as ethical, trustworthy, and professional. She was also required, as part of her job, to enforce the company's policies about workplace conduct and conflicts of interest. What if someone were to anonymously report that an HR manager was having an affair with a married man? Sophie suggested. That would trigger an internal investigation. And even if they didn't find anything actionable, the rumors would spread through the office. Erica would hate that more than anything. Sophie opened her laptop and navigated to the website for Erica's company. They have an anonymous ethics hotline. Anyone can report suspected policy violations. What would we report? That a senior HR employee is engaged in behavior that reflects poorly on the company's values, that she's been seen in public with a married man who is not her husband, and that this relationship may be affecting her judgment in workplace matters. It wasn't technically false. Erica had been seen in public with Adam. We had photos to prove it, and her relationship with him was definitely affecting her judgment. I watched Sophie fill out the online form, providing just enough detail to be credible without making any accusations we couldn't back up. She submitted it anonymously, using a VPN to mask her location. That should get things started, she said. What's next? Adam's workplace. Mountain View Construction was a small company with about 30 employees. According to their website, they prided themselves on being a family-oriented business that valued integrity, honesty, and hard work. I had an idea. Sophie, do you still have those GPS records showing all the times Adam was supposed to be at work, but was actually somewhere else? Of course. What if someone were to send those records to his boss? Someone anonymous? Someone concerned about the company's reputation. We spent an hour crafting an email to the owner of Mountain View Construction. It was written from the perspective of a concerned citizen who had noticed that one of the company's employees was frequently away from job sites during working hours, and who was worried that this might reflect poorly on the company's professional standards. We attached a detailed timeline showing dates and times when Adam was supposed to be working, but was actually at hotels, restaurants, or my house. We didn't mention the affair directly, we just presented the facts and let the boss draw his own conclusions. "This is going to get him in serious trouble," Sophie said as she hit send. "Good, he should be in trouble." But we were just getting started. Our next target was social media. Adam and Erica were both active on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. They posted regularly about their lives, their relationships, and their activities. What they didn't realize was that their social media activity created a detailed record of their lives. Sophie and I spent the afternoon creating a comprehensive timeline of their social media posts, cross-referenced with their actual locations and activities. The contradictions were glaring. On November 3rd, Adam had posted a photo of himself working late at the construction site, but the GPS data showed he was at my house. On the same day, Erica had posted about a quiet evening at home with a good book. But her location data showed she was at the same hotel where Adam had been the week before. We didn't post this information directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead, we created anonymous accounts and started asking innocent questions in the comment sections of their posts. "Hey Adam, which construction site is this? It looks familiar." "Erica, what book are you reading? I'm looking for recommendations." "Adam, is that the new Marriott in the background of your photo?" The questions were subtle, but they would make other people start looking more closely at the posts. And once people started looking, they'd start noticing the inconsistencies. By the end of the day, we'd planted seeds of doubt in a dozen different places. Erica's workplace would be investigating her conduct. Adam's boss would be questioning his work ethic. Their friends and family would be wondering why their stories didn't add up. "How long do you think it'll take before they figure out what's happening?" Sophie asked as we packed up our materials. "Not long. Erica's smart, and she knows how to read people. She'll realize that the timing is too coincidental." What do we do when they confront us? We tell them the truth. We're not doing anything illegal or unethical. We're just making sure people have accurate information about who they really are. My phone buzzed with a text from Erica. "Max, I know you're angry, but this has gone far enough. We need to talk." I showed the message to Sophie. "Looks like it's already starting," she said. "Good. Let her sweat for a while." I turned off my phone and headed home. It was time for the next phase of our plan. When I walked into my house that evening, Erica was waiting for me in the living room. She'd been crying, her makeup was smeared and her eyes were red, but she'd tried to clean herself up before I got home. "Max, we need to talk." "Do we?" "Because yesterday you told me there was nothing to talk about. You said I was being jealous and paranoid." I was scared. I didn't know what to say. "You could have tried the truth." She stood up and walked toward me, and I could see her switching into manipulation mode. Her voice got softer, her posture more vulnerable. It was a performance I'd seen before, but now I recognized it for what it was. "Max, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But it doesn't have to ruin everything we've built together." "Everything we've built together? Erica, you've been screwing another man in our bed for months. You've been using our money to buy him gifts and take him to hotels. You've been lying to my face every single day. What exactly have we built together? We have 8 years of marriage. We have a home, a life, friends, plans for the future." We had those things, past tense. She started crying again, but this time it seemed more genuine. "Max, please. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through this." "Can we work through the fact that you think I'm stupid enough to believe that Adam just needed a place to sleep?" I panicked. I didn't know what else to say. "You could have said, 'I'm sorry.' You could have said, 'I made a mistake.' You could have said, "I've been having an affair and I want to end it." Instead, you tried to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy for being upset about finding my wife in bed with another man. She was quiet for a moment. You're right. I handled it terribly. But Max, the affair is over. I ended it today. Adam and I agreed that we made a mistake, and we're both going to work on our marriages. Really? Adam's going to work on his marriage? Yes. That's interesting, because Sophie and I had a very different conversation yesterday. Erica's face went white. You talked to Sophie? I did more than talk to her. We're friends now, good friends. We have a lot in common. Max, what did you do? I told her the truth, something you seem to have trouble with. You had no right to involve her in this. I had no right? Erica, you involved her the moment you started sleeping with her husband. You involved me the moment you brought him into our bed. You don't get to control who knows about your affair. She sat down heavily on the couch. This is going to ruin everything. Yes, it is. That's the point. Max, please. I'm begging you. We can handle this privately. We don't need to involve other people. Too late for that. My phone rang. It was Sophie. Hey, I said, answering it while looking directly at Erica. Max, you need to get over here right now. Adam just got home and he's losing his mind. I think he's going to do something stupid. What kind of stupid? The kind that involves him coming to your house and making threats. He's drunk, he's angry, and he just got fired. I looked at Erica, who was staring at me with growing horror. He got fired? His boss called him into the office this afternoon. Apparently someone sent them detailed records of all the times Adam was supposed to be working but was actually screwing around. He's been suspended pending a full investigation. I'll be right there. I hung up and looked at Erica. Looks like your boyfriend is having a bad day. Max, what did you do? I made sure his boss knew what kind of employee he really is. You got him fired? I didn't get him fired. He got himself fired by lying to his employer and stealing company time to have an affair with you. Erica stood up, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely afraid. Max, you don't understand. Adam has a temper. If he thinks you're responsible for him losing his job, he's going to come after you. Let him come. I'm not afraid of Adam. He's not going to fight fair. He's going to try to hurt you. Then I guess we'll see what happens. I headed for the door, but Erica grabbed my arm. Max, please, don't go over there. Don't make this worse than it already is. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. Erica, you made this mess. You and Adam. Now you get to live with the consequences. I pulled free and walked out the door, leaving my wife alone with the wreckage of her affair and her lies. As I drove towards Sophie's house, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: excitement. For the first time since this whole mess started, I wasn't reacting to what other people had done to me. I was taking action. I was fighting back. And I was just getting started. When I pulled into Sophie's driveway, I could hear shouting coming from inside the house. Through the front window, I could see Adam pacing back and forth in the living room, gesturing wildly with his hands, while Sophie stood with her arms crossed, looking unimpressed by whatever he was saying. I knocked on the door, and Sophie answered immediately. "Thank God you're here," she said. "He's been ranting for 20 minutes about how you ruined his life." I ruined his life? Apparently getting fired is your fault, not his. I walked into the living room, and Adam spun around to face me. He was drunk. I could smell the beer on him from 6 feet away, and his face was flushed with anger. "You son of a bitch," he said. "You cost me my job." "I didn't cost you anything, Adam. You cost yourself your job by lying to your boss and stealing company time." "You sent them those records," Sophie told me. "I sent them facts. What they did with those facts was their decision." He took a step toward me, and I could see his hands clenching into fists. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you can just destroy people's lives because you're pissed off about your wife? My wife? Adam, she's not just my wife. She's also the woman you've been having an affair with. The woman you've been screwing in my bed while I was at work. The woman who's been using my money to buy you presents and take you to hotels. That wasn't her idea. That was mine. Really? You forced her to have an affair with you? I didn't force her to do anything. She wanted to be with me. Sophie laughed. Oh, that's rich. Adam, you've been cheating on me for years. Erica is just the latest in a long line of women you've used and thrown away. This is different, Adam said, but he wouldn't look at Sophie when he said it. Different how? I asked. Because I love her. The room went quiet. Sophie and I looked at each other, then back at Adam. You love her, I repeated. Yes. You love my wife? Yes. The wife you told me you were just hanging out with? Adam's face reddened. I was trying to keep things simple. Simple, Sophie said. Adam, you're married. To me. You have been for 8 years. How is having an affair with someone else's wife simple? Our marriage has been over for years, Sophie. You know that. Our marriage has been over for years because you've been cheating on me for years. But I never filed for divorce because I kept hoping you'd grow up and start acting like a husband instead of a teenager. Well, now you don't have to hope anymore, Adam said, because I want a divorce. Sophie stared at him. You want a divorce. Yes, I want to be with Erica. And what does Erica want? Adam hesitated. She wants to be with me too. Really? Because when I left her an hour ago, she was begging me not to come over here. She was afraid you'd do something stupid that would make everything worse. She's just scared because you're trying to ruin both our lives. I'm not trying to ruin anything, I said. I'm just making sure people know the truth about who you are. The truth? You want to know the truth? The truth is that your wife hasn't been happy with you for years. The truth is that she only stayed with you because it was easier than leaving. The truth is that she's been pretending to love you while she's actually been in love with me. His words hit like a punch to the gut, but I kept my expression neutral. If that's true, then she should have divorced me before she started sleeping with you. Maybe she should have, but she didn't, and now we're all dealing with the consequences. Yes, we are. And the consequences are that you lost your job, your wife knows about your affair, and everyone in town is going to know exactly what kind of man you are. Adam's face went dark. You think you can destroy me? You think you can turn everyone against me? I don't have to turn anyone against you, Adam. I just have to tell them what you did. They can make their own decisions about what kind of person that makes you. You smug bastard. You think you're so much better than me? I think I'm someone who doesn't lie to his wife, cheat on his marriage, or steal time from his employer to have affairs. If that makes me better than you, then yes. Adam lunged at me. I'd been expecting it. Drunk, angry men are predictable, so I was ready when he came at me with his fists swinging. I sidestepped his first punch and grabbed his wrist, using his own momentum to send him stumbling into Sophie's coffee table. He went down hard, scattering medical textbooks and empty beer bottles across the floor. Adam! Sophie shouted. What the hell is wrong with you? He struggled to his feet, bleeding from a cut on his forehead where he'd hit the table. This isn't over, he said, pointing at me. You think you can humiliate me and get away with it? I think you humiliated yourself, I said. I just made sure people could see it. We'll see about that. He stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. A few seconds later, we heard his motorcycle roar to life and speed away. Sophie and I looked at each other. That went well, she said. He's going to do something stupid. Probably. The question is what? My phone rang. It was Erica. Max, Adam just called me. He's on his way to our house and he's furious. He says you attacked him. I didn't attack him. He tried to attack me, and he fell into a coffee table. He's drunk, Max. He's not thinking clearly. You need to get home before he does something we'll all regret. What kind of something? I don't know. But he's talking about making you pay for ruining his life. I looked at Sophie. Adam's headed to my house. Erica thinks he's going to cause trouble. Want me to come with you? No, this is between me and him now. Max, be careful. Adam's not a bad guy, but he's stupid when he's drunk, and he's never been good at dealing with consequences. I drove home as fast as I legally could, but Adam's motorcycle was faster. When I pulled into my driveway, he was already there, standing in my front yard, shouting at Erica, who was on the porch trying to calm him down. "Told you this would happen," he was saying. "I told you your husband was going to try to destroy us. Adam, please, just calm down. We can figure this out." Figure it out? Erica, I lost my job today because of him. How are we supposed to figure that out? I got out of my car and walked toward them. Adam, you need to leave. Now. He spun around to face me. Or what? You'll call the cops? You'll send them more lies about me? I'll call the cops if you don't get off my property. Your property? This is where you brought my wife yesterday to plan your little revenge scheme, isn't it? Sophie came here because she deserved to know the truth about what her husband was doing. The truth? You want to talk about truth? Let's talk about the truth. Adam pulled out his phone and held it up. Let's talk about how your wife has been texting me for months, begging me to leave Sophie and be with her. Let's talk about how she told me she never loved you, that she only married you because you were safe and boring. He started reading from his phone. I can't stand the way Max looks at me anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating in this house with him. I need to be with someone who makes me feel alive. Erica went pale. Adam, don't. Oh, we're just getting started. How about this one? Max is so clueless. He has no idea what I need from a man. You make me feel like a woman again. Each word was like a knife twisting in my chest, but I kept my face expressionless. Are you done? Not even close. Want to hear what she said about your performance in bed? Adam, stop, Erica said. Please. Why should I stop? He destroyed my life today. I think it's only fair that everyone knows what kind of marriage he really has. Everyone? I asked. Oh yes. I'm thinking about posting these on Facebook. Maybe sending them to your friends, your co-workers, your family. Let them all know what your wife really thinks of you. That's when I smiled. Go ahead, I said. Adam blinked. What? Go ahead and post them. Send them to everyone I know, please. You're bluffing. I'm not bluffing. I'm giving you permission. Post every text message Erica ever sent you. Send them to my boss, my friends, my family. Send them to the newspaper if you want. Erica was staring at me in horror. Max, what are you doing? I'm calling his bluff. Because Adam, if you post those text messages, you're not just humiliating me, you're humiliating yourself. How do you figure that? Because those messages are evidence of your affair. They're proof that you were cheating on your wife with a married woman. They're documentation of everything Sophie and I have been telling people about you. Adam's confident expression started to waver. More than that, I continued, they're evidence that you were emotionally manipulating a married woman into having an affair with you. They show that you were encouraging her to betray her marriage vows and lie to her husband. That's not, and best of all, they're time-stamped, which means Sophie and I can cross-reference them with your work schedule and prove that you were sending personal text messages during company time. You know, the company time you were already stealing to have your affair. Adam lowered his phone. So please, I said, post those messages. Send them to everyone. Because the more evidence you provide of your own behavior, the easier you make it for everyone to see exactly who you are. He stood there for a moment, realizing that his threat had backfired spectacularly. This isn't over, he said finally. Yes, it is. It's been over since the moment I caught you in my bed. You just haven't accepted it yet. Adam looked at Erica, who was crying on the porch steps. Erica, come with me. We can go somewhere else, start over. She shook her head. Adam, I can't. This has gone too far. We've hurt too many people. So that's it? You're just going to give up? I'm going to try to salvage what's left of my life. Adam stared at her for a long moment, then at me. You think you've won, don't you? I think I've made sure that everyone knows the truth. What happens next is up to you. He got on his motorcycle and rode away, leaving Erica and me alone in our front yard. We stood there in silence for several minutes, listening to the sound of his bike fading into the distance. Max, Erica said finally, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of this. I know you are. Is there any way we can work through this? I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. The woman I'd married 8 years ago wouldn't have had an affair. She wouldn't have lied to my face for months. She wouldn't have used our money to buy gifts for another man. No, I said. There isn't. Max, please, I made a terrible mistake, but… Erica, this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. You chose to have an affair. You chose to lie to me. You chose to bring him into our home, into our bed. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. She was crying harder now. I know. You're right. But people can change. I can change. Maybe you can. But I can't forget what you did, and I can't trust you again. So what happens now? Now you pack your things and find somewhere else to stay. Tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. Max. It's over, Erica. We're over. I walked into the house, leaving her alone on the porch. As I closed the door behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. For the first time since this nightmare began, I was in control of my own life again. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and reviewing divorce papers, when I heard a car pull into my driveway. I looked out the window and saw Erica getting out of her rental car. She'd been staying at her sister's place across town since I'd kicked her out. She walked up to the front door and knocked, which I found almost funny. 2 weeks ago, this had been her house too. Now she was knocking like a stranger. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. We need to talk, she said. Actually, we don't. My lawyer is handling everything now. Max, please, just give me 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let her into the kitchen. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed. She had dark circles under her eyes, and she'd lost weight. The confident, polished woman I'd married had been replaced by someone who looked broken and desperate. How are you holding up? She asked, which was such a ridiculous question that I almost laughed. How do you think I'm holding up, Erica? I know this has been hard on you. Hard on me? My wife of 8 years had an affair with her ex-boyfriend in our bed, lied to my face about it for months, and used our joint bank account to buy him presents. Hard doesn't begin to cover it. She sat down at the kitchen table without being invited. Max, I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed your trust. But I want you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. You never meant for it to happen? The affair, it just sort of developed over time. It wasn't planned. Erica, you didn't accidentally fall into bed with Adam. You made a series of conscious decisions that led to you having an affair. You're right. I did. And I regret every single one of those decisions. Do you? Because 2 weeks ago you were telling me that Adam just needed a place to sleep. She winced. I was panicking. I didn't know what to say. You could have told the truth. I was scared of losing you. So instead, you decided to lie to me and make me think I was crazy for being suspicious. She was quiet for a moment. Max, I know I handled everything wrong, but I want you to know that I never stopped loving you. You have a funny way of showing love. I was confused. I was going through something and I made terrible choices. But my feelings for you never changed. I stared at her. Erica, do you honestly believe that? Do you honestly think you can have an affair with another man for months and claim that your feelings for your husband never changed? I know it sounds impossible, but It sounds impossible because it is impossible. You can't love someone and betray them at the same time. People are complicated, Max. Relationships are complicated. It's possible to love someone and still make mistakes. Mistakes? Erica, you had a months-long affair. You brought him into our home. You used our money to buy him gifts. You lied to me every single day. Those weren't mistakes. That was a pattern of deliberate deception. She started crying. I know I screwed up everything, but Max, we had 8 good years together. Doesn't that count for something? It used to count for everything, but you threw it away. I didn't throw it away. I damaged it. But damaged things can be repaired. Not this. Not this level of betrayal. She reached across the table and tried to take my hand, but I pulled it away. Max, please, I'm begging you. Give me a chance to make this right. How? How could you possibly make this right? Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I'll do anything to save our marriage. Our marriage is already over, Erica. It ended the moment you decided to sleep with Adam. It doesn't have to be over. We can rebuild. We can start fresh. Start fresh? How do we start fresh when I know that you're capable of lying to my face for months? How do I ever trust you again? I'll earn your trust back. How? She didn't have an answer for that. We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, she spoke again. What about Adam? Are you going to keep trying to destroy his life? I'm not trying to destroy anyone's life. I'm just making sure people know who they really are. He lost his job because of you. He lost his job because he was stealing company time to have an affair. I just provided his boss with documentation of his activities. He can't find another job now. Word has gotten around the construction industry that he's unreliable. Then maybe he should have thought about that before he decided to be unreliable. Max, you're destroying him. No, Erica. He destroyed himself. I'm just making sure he faces the consequences of his actions. And what about me? Are you going to try to destroy my career too? I looked at her. Your company's ethics investigation is based on your actual behavior, not anything I made up. If your career is damaged, it's because of choices you made. I could lose my job. Yes, you could. And that doesn't bother you? Should it? You didn't seem bothered by the possibility of destroying our marriage when you were having your affair. She was quiet for a long time. I deserve that. Yes, you do. Max, I know you hate me right now. I don't hate you, Erica. I don't feel anything for you anymore. That's the problem. She looked up at me, and I could see the realization dawning on her face. Hate would have meant I still cared. Indifference meant she'd killed whatever feelings I'd had for her. So that's it? 8 years of marriage and you just don't care anymore? You made sure I wouldn't care anymore. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. Maybe not consciously, but every lie you told, every time you brought Adam into our bed, every time you chose him over me, you were killing my feelings for you. And now they're dead. She started crying harder. Max, please. There has to be something left. Some part of you that still loves me. There isn't. I don't believe that. Believe it. Because it's the truth. And unlike you, I don't lie. The doorbell rang. We both looked toward the front door. Are you expecting someone? Erica asked. No. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Sophie, and she looked upset. I opened the door. Sophie, what's wrong? Adam's missing, she said. He didn't come home last night and his bike is gone. I think he might have done something stupid. Erica appeared behind me. What kind of stupid? Sophie looked at her with obvious dislike. The kind that involves him disappearing with what's left of our savings account and a suitcase full of clothes. He left town? I asked. Looks like it. He cleaned out our joint checking account yesterday afternoon. Took about $3,000, which was everything we had left after the mortgage and bills. Erica went pale. He wouldn't just leave without telling me. Sophie laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. Wouldn't he? Erica, you've known Adam for what, 6 months of actual relationship time? I've been married to him for 8 years. Trust me, running away when things get difficult is exactly what he does. But he said he loved me. He says a lot of things. Most of them are lies. Erica pulled out her phone and tried calling Adam. It went straight to voicemail. His phone's turned off, she said. Or he blocked your number, Sophie suggested, which is what I would do if I were him. I don't understand. Yesterday he was talking about us starting over somewhere else. Yesterday he still thought he could salvage something from this mess, I said. Now he realizes that everyone in town knows what he did, he can't get another job, and his wife is divorcing him. So he's running. But what about me? Sophie and I looked at each other. What about you? Sophie asked. He can't just abandon me. We were going to be together. Erica, I said gently, Adam was never going to leave Sophie for you. He was having an affair, not planning a future. That's not true. He told me he loved me. He told you what you wanted to hear so you'd keep sleeping with him. You don't know that. Sophie pulled out her phone and showed Erica the screen. Actually, I do know that, because I found these text messages on Adam's old phone, the one he thought he'd thrown away. She scrolled through a series of messages between Adam and someone named Jessica. Adam's been having an affair with Jessica Martinez for the past 3 months. At the same time, he was having an affair with you. Erica stared at the phone. That's impossible. Jessica works at the diner on 5th Street. According to these messages, Adam's been telling her the same things he was telling you. That he loves her, that he's going to leave me for her, that they're going to start a new life together. But he was with me on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And he was with Jessica on Saturdays and Sundays. He had a whole schedule worked out. Erica sank into a chair. So I wasn't special. I was just one of several. You were convenient, Sophie said bluntly. You were married, so you weren't going to pressure him to leave me. You had money, so you could buy him things. And you were naive enough to believe his lies about love and starting over. I can't believe this. Believe it. Adam is a serial cheater who tells every woman exactly what she wants to hear. The only difference between you and his other affairs is that you got caught. Erica asked if I knew about Jessica. I said no, but it fit the pattern. She realized Adam had lied to her too, and begged that it should change how I saw our marriage. I told her it didn't. Adam didn't force her to cheat, lie, or bring him into our bed. Those were her choices. Sophie warned us Adam was gone, then told Erica to apologize to me and mean it. Erica apologized for everything, but I said sorry doesn't erase consequences, and the divorce was final. After she left, I felt relief for the first time in months. I called Sophie and we admitted we mostly felt free. We made dinner plans, and I realized their betrayal didn't just break things, it cleared space for something better.